Hello, my name is Mark. In this video, I'll buy a lump of reclaimed oak full of quite large holes, then attempt to melt some Coke cans down to fill up the large holes. It doesn't go quite as I expected, but I do end up with a table at the end of it. So I was down the Mid-Sussex wood recycling project today, got hold of this piece of oak. It's got these holes. They've obviously been cut out for something because it's got tenons and stuff on the end as well. If you roll it over, it's got exactly the same, all these pockets cut out on the other side. So it wasn't really a lot of good to them because it's all the holes in, so I got it for a tenner, which I thought was a bit of a bargain. So what I'm going to do is cut it into three, keep the holes are symmetrical, so I should be able to keep all the holes in line, and then they can be filled up with the melted alley cans. That's the plan anyway. So what I'll do is I'll get it all cut down. I think it's a little bit twisted, so I want to straighten it up a little bit. Glue it all up, and then we'll go with the cans. So now I've glued it all up, I've given it a basic clean up. So I've cut these sort of tapered. So we're going to drop them in the holes, because obviously I don't need to fill up the entire hole with can. I don't want to melt that many cans, so I've tapered them so because it's not going to stick. The metal's not going to stick. It's not going to stick. It's not like putting epoxy or something. It's not going to stick to the wood. So if it goes in round that taper, it should stay in there. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get some paper, glue the paper on top of there with PVA glue, and then glue a bit of hardboard on top of there like that. Then I'm going to flush trim out the holes when the glue's dry, because when I start, I've never done this before, so I'm literally making this up as I go along, but I'm never going to be able to pour the can in without spilling it. So if I've got that wood there, then anything that spews round and misses will be okay, because it should land on here, and it'll sit up a little bit. It'll be a little bit, if I fill the top of the hardboard, it'll be raised a bit, which will then give me something to sand off if I've got a rough face. So hopefully I can get it smooth with the top of the oak. But I could be completely wrong because I've never done it before and I don't know. So, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to set a test one up and do a test one first before I risk trashing this bit of oak. But that's the plan so far. So I'll get all this ready to go and then come back. Got this old bit of oak. And that's all what it's off. An old bit of old floor joist. That's soft with the floor joist. So I'm going to make the legs out of that and just the rails out of that bit of softwood. I picked this up in a wood recycling place at the same time. I'll put a link to that in the description if anyone's interested and lives local and wants to check it out. Yeah, so I mean, it's a bit tatty, but I'm sure by the time it's all cleaned up, I'll get 4 decent legs. I won't really film much of the legs, I'll just spin through it really quick, because it's really about the top, and messing around with the tin cans is sort of the purpose of the video really. But I will just sort of vaguely show you what I do with the legs, but I won't spend ages on the legs. I don't know if you can hear me because of the noise of the torch. I'm just melting down a small little tiny pot at a time and doing one hole at a time. I'm mixing the Coke cans up with a bit of better quality aluminium. It seems to be flowing better. Like that. I did film when I was outside. Obviously you'll see the footage of that. But it was really noisy with the blowtorch. I don't know how much of the talking you could hear. So I'll just run through the process, just if anyone's interested. So I started off with a bigger saucepan trying to melt like a lot of it in one go, but that torch wouldn't get it hot enough. It would just sort of wouldn't get enough of it into liquid so you could pour it out. So then I went down to that basically baked bean tin little things that were just enough to do one hole, which just about got it hot enough and just about seems to work. I've tried to sand that one there a little bit, and it looks like it's going to sand up okay. But until we get these, I'm going to have to sand these flush to the hardboard, then take the hardboard off and sand them flush to the oak. So it could be a bit messing around. So I found it, if you just put Coke can in on its own, it was a bit dirty, the alley, because obviously the paint and all the stuff off the alley. So if you mixed it up with some decent alley, so it was sort of half and half, it seemed to work better. So that's the torch I was using. I was thinking it was going to melt a lot easier than it did actually. It took a lot longer messing around getting it to melt than it did. until we get all this off and clean it up, I'm not really going to know what we've got, but that's the process I used anyway. So, because I've got the paper stuck under here, I should be able to rip the hardboard off once I've got these sanded smooth, and because it's because it should just leave the paper still stuck to the wood, because it's not like I've stuck the hardboard to the wood, so it should come off relatively easy. I've done it before with this similar sort of thing and it worked okay. So do that, get all these cleaned up and see if it's going to work, I suppose. So I've managed to get the first one off. I've just pulled off the paper, so the paper's still stuck. That's why I put the paper there. Got a couple of little bits of burn there. I don't know if the burn's in the paper or it's going to be on the wood as well. So I can now sand these flat with the wood, and as I sand them flat, the paper should disappear. I've got to get these ones flat as well to get the hardboard off. But way too much on some of those. A bit carried away there, so I've got loads to sand down. So it's taken a while, but I'll have a bit more of a sand and then come back, show a bit more. So I've got this side sort of, well, getting there with the cleaning up. That one's about the best one, but I mean that one's got like a little bit of a burn around it. That one's got a little hole in it. But that's kind of what I was expecting, because it was so hot when it went in, I thought it was going to burn the wood a little bit. That's why I had all the hardboard and all that to try and stop it. So, but I mean, I'm quite pleased. I don't think it's all finished, you know. I mean, it's experimental. First time, I couldn't find anything on YouTube, anyone else had done it. So I was kind of winging it and guessing as I was going along. So, you know, I've got it to work, that's the main thing. So I've got loads of these filings with sand in it. So I thought, a bit of epoxy. I mean, we do glue and sawdust, don't you? So epoxy and filings to fill a hole up and try and just fill some of these gaps up round and see what it looks like when it's finally sanded and finished. So I made up the leg frame. I've just gone for like just a mortise and tenon thing. I cut the mortises with just a simple routed jig and just cut the tenons on the table saw. I didn't bother filming it because it was like fairly sort of, you know, just fairly the same basic sort of stuff really. Bit of a surprise with the wood though, because I was thinking that lump I showed earlier in the video was oak for the legs, but I think it's chestnut. It's definitely not oak. And that other bit of old beam that I cut up, I was expecting that to be pine, but it's definitely not pine. I'm not even sure what that is. If anyone knows, stick it in the comments. Okay, so after an insane amount of sanding, this is pretty much what I've come up with. Some of them are better than others, I think, but it's sort of kind of got the effect I was looking for. Quite pleased I've actually managed to get something that's usable anyway. I'm going to go for a coat of polyurethane varnish, I think, because I want to keep the shininess of the alley. And I think, I'm not sure if I wax it what that'll do, but if I could trap it in behind some polyurethane varnish, because that's kind of what I like to do to alley wheels, I think. It's like a sort of like a varnish lacquer on them to keep them shiny. I don't know, I think that's right. So I'm going to give it a couple of coats of varnish and see what it comes up like. So I've got the legs out, the clamps. I've given them a good sand up. I'm going to mount these casters to the bottom, because one, it's really heavy to move, and I just think it'll look more like an industrial look with the alley on the top. So I'll do that. I'm going to just wax the legs up and then sort of final assembly them. So there it is, all finished. Didn't really turn out as I was expecting. What I was really hoping for was 6 perfect sort of shiny alley dots on the alley circle, what shape they are, on the top of the table, but I clearly haven't got that. I know I probably didn't get the aluminium hot enough. I struggled with the melting process. Obviously the burning is an issue when it goes in. I have learned quite a lot from the process. I'm not really sure whether I'm going to be doing anything with what I've learned, but possibly in the future. Really interested in the comments on this one. If you can tell me where I went wrong, we're really interested. Anyone's had any experience or tried it before or anything? Be really interested to hear in the comments what you think. Thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe and check out my other videos.